Captain Jin-A Park watched through the cracked viewport as another piece of Earth's orbital defense grid exploded into glowing fragments. The metal twisted and burned against the black of space, while alien ships moved through the wreckage like sharks through blood. Her hands gripped the command console so hard her knuckles turned white. "Station 7 is gone," reported Lieutenant Chen from his position at the communications array. His voice stayed steady, but Jin-A could see the fear in his eyes. "No survivors. No survivors." Jin-A nodded without looking away from the battle outside. Station 7 had been her home for 3 years before she took command of Station Prime. Good people lived there. Good people who were now floating debris in the cold vacuum of space. The Zephyrian ships looked nothing like human vessels. They were made of some kind of living crystal that grew and shifted as they moved. Sharp edges caught the light of distant stars and threw it back in rainbow patterns that would have been beautiful if they weren't so deadly. Each ship was the size of a city block and moved with the grace of a hunting animal. "How many evacuation ships made it out?" Jin-A asked. 43 confirmed departures from Luna Base," Chen replied. "But the aliens are hunting them down. Only 26 are still transmitting." Jin-A closed her eyes for a moment. Each of those ships carried 10,000 people. Families. Children. The last hope of humanity, fleeing their dying world. She opened her eyes and looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed enemy positions. There were so many of them that they almost covered the screen completely. The few blue dots representing human forces looked pathetic in comparison. The aliens had come without warning 6 days ago. No attempts at communication. No demands. They simply arrived at the edge of the solar system and began destroying everything in their path. Earth's military had fought bravely, but their weapons barely scratched the crystal hulls of the enemy ships. Nuclear missiles exploded harmlessly against alien shields. Plasma cannons that could cut through steel did nothing more than make pretty light shows. "Captain," called out Ensign Martinez from the sensor station, "they're charging their planet-killer weapon again." Through the viewport, Jin-A could see the largest of the alien ships. It was 10 times bigger than the others, and shaped like a massive flower made of crystal. Energy was building up in its center, creating a ball of white light that hurt to look at directly. She had seen what that weapon could do. It had turned the city of New Tokyo into a crater of melted glass. 50 million people had died in an instant. "Target?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "London," Martinez said quietly. "Another 50 million people. Another piece of human civilization about to be erased from existence." Jin-A felt sick. Her small defense station had enough firepower to destroy a building or maybe damage a small ship. Against the alien fleet, she might as well try to stop a hurricane with a paper fan. "Station Prime to all remaining Earth forces," she said into her communicator. "We need to buy those evacuation ships more time. All units. Target the escort vessels around the planet killer." "Captain," Chen said, "our weapons won't even dent their shields." "I know," Jin-A replied. "But we have to try." The station's gun batteries opened fire. Streams of plasma and solid projectiles reached out toward the alien ships. The weapons hit their targets, but did no visible damage. It was like throwing pebbles at a mountain. The aliens didn't even seem to notice the attack. On the tactical display, more blue dots disappeared as human ships were destroyed. The evacuation vessels were running out of time. The planet-killer weapon was almost fully charged. In a few minutes, another piece of Earth would become a smoking hole in the ground. "Captain," Martinez called out suddenly. His voice was different, confused. "I'm reading something strange on long-range sensors." "Define strange," Jin-A said. "There's a massive energy signature appearing beyond the moon. But it's not like anything I've seen before. The readings don't make sense." They dod. "There's a massive energy signature." Jin-A frowned and moved to look over Martinez's shoulder at his screen. The sensor data was indeed strange. It showed something huge, materializing in empty space. But the energy patterns were completely wrong. They looked more like the readings you would get from a dimensional rift than from any kind of ship. Could it be more aliens? Chen asked. Unknown, Martinez replied. Whatever it is, it's big. Really big. Maybe twice the size of their planet-killer ship. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of machinery and the distant rumble of weapons fire. Everyone stared at the sensor display as the mysterious signature grew stronger. Jin-A felt a small spark of hope in her chest. Maybe it was another human force, some secret weapon that Command had kept hidden until now. There, Martinez pointed at his screen excitedly. Visual contact. On the main display, something shimmered into existence like a mirage becoming real. It was indeed massive. But it didn't look like any human ship Jin-A had ever seen. The hull was smooth and organic, like it had been grown rather than built. Strange lights moved across its surface, in patterns that seemed almost alive. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Are you getting any identification signals? Jin-A asked. Martinez shook his head. Nothing on standard frequencies. But wait. He adjusted his controls. There's something on an old emergency band. Very faint. Static filled the bridge speakers. Then, through the noise, came a voice speaking English, with an accent Jin-A didn't recognize. This is the vessel Wanderer's Rest to any surviving Earth forces. We see you are in trouble. We are here to help. Jin-A stared at the strange ship on the display. Where had it come from? How had it appeared out of nowhere? And most importantly, could it really help them against the alien fleet that was about to destroy what remained of humanity? The planet-killer weapon finished charging. The ball of energy in its center had grown to the size of a small moon. In moments, it would fire, and London would join New Tokyo as a glowing crater. Jin-A grabbed her communicator and spoke into it with desperate hope. Wanderer's Rest, this is Captain Jin-A Park of Earth Defense Station Prime. The voice from Wanderer's Rest came back strong and clear through the static. Captain Park, this is Captain Hae-Jin Kim. Hold your position and prepare to witness something your enemy has never seen before. Jin-A watched in amazement as the massive organic ship began to change. Its hull rippled like water, and strange energy patterns flowed across its surface. The ship seemed to bend the space around it, making the stars behind it twist and stretch in impossible ways. What are they doing? Chen whispered. Before Jin-A could answer, the Wanderer's Rest simply vanished. Not destroyed, not hidden behind a cloaking field, but gone, as if it had never existed at all. The sensors showed nothing where the huge ship had been just moments before. Did we lose them? Martinez asked, frantically checking his instruments. Then the impossible happened. The Wanderer's Rest appeared again. But this time, it was right next to the alien planet-killer ship. There had been no movement, no travel time. One moment it was near the moon, the next it was in the middle of the enemy fleet. The alien ships reacted with panic. Their perfect crystal formations broke apart as they tried to target a vessel that shouldn't exist. The planet-killer weapon stopped charging and began to turn toward this new threat. But the Wanderer's Rest was already moving in ways that hurt Jin-A's eyes to watch. Captain Kim to all Earth forces, the voice came over the communicators again. Allow us to introduce ourselves properly. We are the children of the colony ship New Horizon, launched from Earth 237 years ago. Jin-A's breath caught in her throat. The New Horizon had been one of the early colony ships, sent out before faster-than-light travel was perfected. It had been presumed lost when it stopped transmitting after leaving the solar system. We found something out there in the deep void between stars, Captain Kim continued. We learned that space and time are not as solid as people think. We learned to bend them to our will. As if to prove his point, parts of the Wanderer's Rest began to phase in and out of reality. Weapons fire from the alien ships passed harmlessly through sections of hull that weren't quite there anymore. Meanwhile, Return fire from the human ship struck targets that should have been impossible to hit from that angle. Our ancestors dreamed of the stars, Kim's voice continued. They never imagined that their children would become something the stars themselves would fear. Janae watched in fascination as small fighter craft launched from the Wanderer's Rest. But these weren't ordinary fighters. They moved through space like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will. Some seemed to exist in two places at once. Others looked transparent, as if they were only half real. The alien fleet was in chaos. Their weapons couldn't lock onto targets that kept shifting between dimensions. Their shields were useless against attacks that came from directions that didn't exist. For the first time since the invasion began, the crystalline ships were retreating. Captain Park, Kim's voice addressed her directly. We know this is confusing. We know you have questions. But right now we need your help to save your world. What can we do? Janae replied. Our weapons are useless against them. Not useless, Kim corrected. Different. You fight in the dimension where they are strongest. We fight in dimensions where they cannot follow. Together, we can hurt them in ways they cannot heal. On the tactical display, Janae could see what Kim meant. When the Earth ships fired at aliens that were being attacked by the phase fighters, their weapons seemed to have more effect. It was as if the dimensional attacks were making the enemy ships more solid, more vulnerable to conventional weapons. All Earth forces, Janae announced over the general communication channel. Coordinate your attacks with our new allies. Focus fire on targets that are being engaged by the phase fighters. The battle turned into something beautiful and terrible. The Wanderer's Rest moved through the alien fleet like a dancer, appearing and disappearing at will. Its weapons fired beams of energy that curved through space and struck targets from impossible angles. The phase fighters swarmed around the larger alien ships like angry bees, striking and vanishing before the enemy could react. But the aliens were not defenseless. As their initial shock wore off, they began to adapt. The largest ships started generating fields of energy that made the space around them more solid, harder for the phase technology to penetrate. Some of the smaller fighters from Wanderer's Rest flickered and vanished permanently as they were caught in these dimensional anchors. They learn quickly, Kim said over the communicator. His voice was grim. We hoped to end this battle quickly, but they are more adaptable than we expected. The alien planet killer ship was retreating toward the outer system, but its weapon was charging again. This time the target wasn't a city on Earth. It was aimed at the Wanderer's Rest itself. The energy signature was different this time, designed to affect multiple dimensions at once. Captain Kim, Janae called out urgently. They're targeting you with everything they have. We see it. Kim replied calmly. And it is indeed dangerous. But you forget something, Captain Park. We are not the same humans who left Earth all those years ago. We are something new. Something they have never encountered before. The Wanderer's Rest began to change again. This time, the transformation was more dramatic. The ship seemed to stretch and grow, becoming less solid and more like a living shadow. It spread out across space like spilled ink, surrounding several alien ships at once. We learned long ago that survival in the void requires more than strong weapons or thick armor. Kim's voice came from everywhere at once now, as if the ship itself was speaking. It requires becoming one with the darkness between stars. The alien ships trapped within the shadow began to crack. Not from weapons fire, but from something deeper. It was as if the space around them was forgetting how to hold them together. Their crystal hulls, so perfect and strong in normal space, couldn't maintain their structure in whatever dimension the Wanderer's Rest had pulled them into. One by one, the trapped ships simply came apart. Not exploding, not burning, just dissolving into component atoms that scattered like dust in a wind that came from nowhere. The remaining alien ships fled. Even the massive planet-killer weapon abandoned its charge and retreated at maximum speed toward the edge of the solar system. They had come to Earth expecting to fight primitive humans with simple technology. Instead, they had encountered something that challenged their understanding of reality itself. As the last alien ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, the Wanderer's Rest reformed into its original shape. The shadow pulled back together, becoming solid and real once more. "Earth is safe," Captain Kim announced. "The immediate threat is ended. But we need to talk, Captain Park. All of us need to talk. There are things you need to know about what humanity has become out there in the dark." The docking bay of Wanderer's Rest was unlike anything Jin-A had ever seen. The walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting in a slow rhythm that reminded her of sleeping. Strange symbols glowed softly in the metal, pulsing with the same heartbeat pattern. The air felt different here, thicker somehow, as if it contained more than just oxygen and nitrogen. Captain Haejin Kim waited for her at the airlock. He looked human enough, but there were small differences that made Jin-A's skin crawl with unease. His eyes were too dark, as if they held depths that went on forever. His movements were too smooth, like he was floating slightly above the deck instead of walking on it. When he smiled, it was warm and genuine, but something about it seemed to come from very far away. "Welcome aboard, Captain Park," Kim said, extending his hand. "It has been a long time since we welcomed visitors from Earth." Jin-A shook his hand and tried not to shudder. His grip was firm and warm. But for just a moment, she felt like she was touching empty space. "Thank you for saving us. Without your intervention, Earth would be nothing but radioactive dust by now." "Earth is our mother world too," Kim replied. "We could not let her die while we had the power to help." He gestured for her to follow him deeper into the ship. "Come. There is much to show you, and even more to explain." As they walked through the corridors, Jin-A saw other crew members going about their duties. They all had the same unsettling quality as their captain. Human, but changed in subtle ways that her mind couldn't quite process. Some seemed to fade in and out of visibility as they moved. Others left footprints that looked like they belonged to someone much larger or smaller than the person making them. "How many of you are there?" Jin-A asked. "On this ship?" "About 8,000, Kim replied. "In total?" "Perhaps 50,000 spread across 12 vessels like this one. We are all that remain of the original colonists and their descendants." 50,000 people living in ships for over 2 centuries? Jin-A was amazed. "How did you survive?" "Rewind." Kim stopped walking and turned to face her. His dark eyes seemed to look right through her, into someplace else entirely. "We didn't just survive, Captain Park. We evolved. The void between stars is not empty like your people think. It is full of things that exist outside normal space and time." They entered a large chamber that served as the ship's bridge, though it looked nothing like the sterile control rooms Jin-A was used to. The walls were covered with panels that seemed to be made of crystallized starlight. Instead of chairs, the crew sat in pods that held them in softly glowing fields of energy. The main display showed not just the space around them, but layers of reality stacked on top of each other like transparent sheets. "This is Chief Engineer Soo-Min Choi," Kim said, introducing Jin-A to a woman who seemed to be made partly of shadow. "She will be working with your technical teams to upgrade your defenses." "Rote." Soo-Min bowed politely. When she spoke, her voice had an odd echo to it, as if it was coming from several places at once. "Your weapons technology is quite good for single-dimension warfare. With some modifications, we can make them effective against multi-dimensional threats." "Multi-dimensional threats?" Jin-A asked. "The Zephyrians are not the only danger out there," Kim explained. "There are things in the deep dark that make them look like harmless children. Things that exist in the spaces between spaces. Things that hunt civilizations that grow too bright and noisy." As if summoned by his words, the main display changed to show something that made Jin-A's stomach lurch. It was a ship, or something like a ship, but it seemed to be turned inside out. Parts of it existed in normal space while other parts flickered through dimensions she couldn't name. It was beautiful and horrible at the same time. The Devourers, Sumin said quietly. They consume entire star systems by folding them into pocket dimensions. The Zephyrians are running from them, just like dozens of other species. That's why they attacked Earth without warning, Kim added. They weren't trying to conquer your world. They were trying to take it over quickly so they could use your industrial capacity to build defenses against the real threat. Janae felt sick. So we're not safe. Even with your help, we're not safe. No, Kim agreed. But you're not alone anymore either. That's why we revealed ourselves. Earth needs to be protected. But more than that, humanity needs to be united again. Over the next several hours, Sumin showed Jin-A technologies that seemed like magic. Weapons that fired through dimensional rifts to strike targets light years away. Shields that protected not just against physical damage, but against attacks that tried to erase things from existence entirely. Manufacturing systems that could create materials by convincing empty space that it was actually full of useful atoms. Your people will need time to understand these concepts, Sumin explained as they watched Earth technicians struggle with a device that looked simple but operated on principles that violated several laws of physics. We have had centuries to adapt our thinking. You have had only days. Some of them are getting it faster than others, Jin-A observed. She could see that the younger engineers were adapting more quickly to the strange new technologies. They asked fewer questions about how things worked and focused more on learning how to use them. Youth helps, Sumin agreed. Rigid thinking is the enemy of dimensional manipulation. Children accept impossible things more easily than adults. As the day progressed, more ships from Earth arrived at the meeting point. Military vessels, research ships, even some civilian craft that had survived the initial attack. Each one was given access to the new technologies, though in carefully limited amounts. We cannot share everything at once, Kim explained when Jin-A questioned the restrictions. Your people need time to grow into these capabilities. Too much too fast, and you could accidentally tear holes in reality itself. Has that happened before? Jin-A asked. Kim's expression grew sad. 3 times. Entire star systems lost because someone tried to force dimensional technology beyond safe limits. We learned to be careful the hard way. By the end of the week, Earth's remaining military force had been transformed. Ships that had been helpless against alien technology now carried weapons that could hurt enemies in multiple dimensions at once. The defense stations that had been rebuilt around Earth were protected by shields that existed partially outside normal space, making them nearly impossible to target with conventional weapons. But the most important change wasn't in the technology. It was in the people. Humans from Earth and humans from the Void were working together, sharing knowledge and stories. The Void Dwellers told tales of wonders seen in the spaces between stars. The Earth humans shared the history of their world and the cultures that had grown there. We are one species again, Kim said, as he and Jin-A watched mixed crews working on the new defenses. Stronger together than we ever were apart. What happens now? Jin-A asked. The aliens will be back. And you said there are worse things coming. Kim nodded grimly. Now we prepare. The Zephyrians will return with different tactics, and behind them come the Devourers. But Earth will not face them alone. Humanity has learned to fight in dimensions that our enemies cannot even imagine. We will teach them to fear the children of the Void. Above them, Earth turned slowly in space, no longer defenseless but guarded by technologies that bent reality itself to protect humanity's birthworld. The unknown ship had brought more than rescue. It had brought the promise of a future where humanity would never again face extinction alone. The alarms screamed through Defense Station Prime as massive energy signatures appeared at the edge of the solar system. Jin-A rushed to the command center. her new dimensional shift boots allowing her to move faster than normal human reflexes should permit. The upgrades from the Void Dwellers had changed more than just their technology. "Report," she ordered as she reached her station. Lieutenant Chen's face was pale as he read from his enhanced sensors. 57 Zephyrian vessels incoming. But Captain, these are different from before. Loking 2. The energy readings are off the charts. On the main display, the alien fleet looked like a collection of angry stars. Each ship blazed with power that made the previous invasion force look like toys. Their crystal hulls had been replaced with something that hurt to look at directly, something that seemed to exist in too many dimensions at once. "They learned," said Chief Engineer Sumin Choi, her voice carrying that strange echo from the speaker system. She was aboard Wanderer's Rest, but her consciousness was linked to Station Prime through void tech that Jin-A still didn't fully understand. "They studied our attacks and adapted." Captain Haejin Kim's image flickered to life on the communications display. Behind him, the bridge of Wanderer's Rest was alive with activity as his crew prepared for battle. "Captain Park, we have a serious problem. The Zephyrians have created dimensional anchors. They're going to try to lock us into normal space, where their weapons work better." Jin-A watched the tactical display as the alien fleet spread out in a pattern she didn't recognize. Each ship was taking position at specific points around the solar system, creating some kind of geometric design that made her eyes water when she tried to focus on it. "What's that they're building in the center?" asked Ensign Martinez. In the middle of the alien formation, something was taking shape. It looked like a giant flower made of crystallized pain, growing larger with each passing moment. Energy flowed between the surrounding ships and into the central construct, feeding it power from across the fleet. "Oh no," breathed Sumin over the communicator. "That's a reality cage. They're going to trap Earth in a dimensional box where only normal physics work." "Can you break it?" Jin-A asked. There was a long pause before Kim answered. "Not from the outside. Once it's complete, we'll be as helpless as you were in the first battle. Then we have to stop them before they finish it," Jin-A said grimly. "All Earth forces, prepare for attack." "Wait," Kim interrupted. "There's something else. Our long-range sensors are picking up movement from the outer system. Something big is coming." Jin-A felt ice in her veins. "The Devourers? Possible. The Zephyrians are rushing to complete their cage. They know something we don't." The next hour was chaos. Earth's enhanced fleet engaged the alien ships, while Wanderer's Rest and its sister vessels tried to disrupt the dimensional cage before it could be completed. The battle was fought on multiple levels of reality at once, with weapons that fired through folded space and shields that protected against attacks from directions that didn't exist. But the Zephyrians had indeed learned. Their new ships could partially phase between dimensions, making them harder targets for the Void Dwellers' exotic weapons. Worse, every few minutes, another piece of the reality cage would lock into place, making dimensional manipulation more difficult in the area around Earth. "We're losing," Chen reported grimly. "They've got us 3-1, and our dimensional advantages are being neutralized." That's when the outer system sensors registered something that changed everything. A massive shape was moving toward them from beyond Pluto's orbit. It was impossibly huge, bigger than any ship should be able to exist. And it was moving faster than anything that size had a right to move. "Devourer class confirmed," Sumin announced, her voice tight with fear. "Designation: unknown, but it's actively consuming matter. As it travels, it's eating asteroids, space debris, anything in its path." On the long-range display, Jin-A could see what Sumin meant. The approaching ship left a trail of absolute emptiness behind it. Not just vacuum, but spaces where reality itself had been digested and converted into something else. The effect on the Zephyrian fleet was immediate. Their perfect formation began to break apart as ships fled toward the edge of the system. But their queen mind wouldn't let them retreat completely. Instead, they accelerated their efforts to complete the reality cage. "They're going to trap us in here with that thing," Martinez said, his voice cracking with panic. Kim's image reappeared on the communications display, but now his face showed an expression Jin-A had never seen before. Determination mixed with desperate hope. "Captain Park, we have one option left. It's never been attempted before, and the odds of success are minimal." "What is it?" Jin-A asked. "We can use Wanderer's Rest as a dimensional anchor to phase Earth itself partially out of normal space. The technique would hide your world from both the Zephyrians and the Devourer." "What's the catch?" Jin-A knew there had to be one. "The process requires us to merge our ship's consciousness with Earth's electromagnetic field. If we succeed, Earth becomes partly dimensional, existing in multiple realities at once. If we fail, the planet could be torn apart by conflicting physics." Jin-A looked around the bridge at her crew. They were all staring at her, waiting for her decision. Outside, the Devourer was getting closer, its reality-eating wake now visible as a dark scar across space. The Zephyrian reality cage was 60% complete and strengthening every minute. "What do you need from us?" she asked. "All Earth forces need to link their power systems to ours," Sumin explained quickly. "We'll use your planetary infrastructure as a foundation for the dimensional shift. Your people will need to trust us completely and follow our instructions exactly. And if this doesn't work?" Kim's dark eyes seemed to look right through her into some distant possibility. "Then, Earth becomes the first course in the Devourer's meal, and humanity dies with its birth world." Jin-A took a deep breath. Around her, the bridge crew nodded their agreement. They had come too far and fought too hard to give up now. What happened next was unlike anything Jin-A had ever experienced. Every system on Station Prime suddenly felt alive, as if the machinery had gained a consciousness of its own. The same thing was happening all across Earth's defense network. Ships, stations, even the planetary power grid began to resonate with energies that existed outside normal space. Through the observation ports, Earth itself began to change. The planet's surface flickered between solid reality and something that looked like a dream of a world. Cities phased in and out of existence while oceans became transparent windows into other dimensions. The Devourer arrived just as the dimensional shift reached critical phase. Its massive bulk blotted out half the sky, reality bending around it like light around a black hole. But when it reached for Earth, its reality-eating appendages passed through empty space. The planet was there, but also not there, existing in a state that the creature couldn't perceive or consume. The Zephyrian fleet watched in amazement as their target simply vanished from their sensors. Their reality cage had been designed to trap a normal planet in normal space. It had no effect on a world that existed partially outside reality itself. Confused and terrified, both alien forces retreated into the deep void, leaving behind only stories of the ghost world and its impossible guardians. On Station Prime, Jin-A watched Earth flicker between dimensions like a candle flame in a gentle wind. They had saved humanity's birth world, but at a cost none of them fully understood yet. "What happens now?" she asked Kim, whose image had become translucent and strange. "Now we learn what we have become," he replied, his voice echoing from dimensions she couldn't name. "Earth is no longer fully part of normal space. Neither are we. We are something new. Something that exists between realities." Through the viewports, Jin-A could see stars that belonged to other universes, shining alongside the familiar constellations of home. Earth had been transformed into something unprecedented. A world that existed in multiple realities simultaneously, protected by the impossible, and guided by the children of the void. 6 months had passed since Earth's transformation, and Jin-A still wasn't used to walking on a planet that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The ground felt solid enough under her feet, but sometimes she could see through it to layers of reality where different versions of Earth spun in cosmic dance. Cities flickered between what they were and what they might become. Oceans reflected skies from a dozen different universes. The adaptation process is proceeding faster than we anticipated, reported Dr. Sarah Kim Chen, Earth's new Director of Dimensional Sciences, as she led Jin-A through the transformed research facility that had once been Geneva. Humans seem naturally suited for multidimensional existence. Jin-A nodded, watching children play in a park where the trees grew in directions that didn't have names. The kids had adapted fastest of all, treating the impossible as normal. They played games that involved running through dimensions, hiding in spaces between spaces, and laughing as they phased in and out of reality. "Captain Park," came a familiar voice. Haejin Kim materialized next to them, his form now permanently translucent. The dimensional shift had changed him even more than the rest of his crew. He existed primarily outside normal space, able to appear anywhere on Earth simply by thinking about it. "Captain Kim," Jin-A replied with a smile that had become natural over the months. "Any word from the Outer Scouts?" "3 more refugee fleets have requested sanctuary," Kim reported. "The Corvan Collective, the Nexari Trade Union, and a group calling themselves the Free Children of Arcturus, all fleeing the same threat." Earth had become something unprecedented in the galaxy, a sanctuary world that existed partially outside normal space. Species fleeing the devourers or other dimensional predators could find safety in the spaces between realities that surrounded the transformed planet. What had started as humanity's desperate attempt to survive had evolved into something greater. "How many does that bring our total population to?" Jin-A asked. "Including all the refugee settlements in the dimensional suburbs, we're housing about 47 million non-humans, Doctor," Kim Chen answered. "They're adapting to multi-dimensional existence remarkably well. The refugee settlements were perhaps the strangest aspect of Earth's new existence. They floated in pocket dimensions adjacent to normal space, connected to the main planet by bridges of crystallized possibility. Each species had been given space to maintain their culture while learning to coexist with others. As they walked through Geneva's transformed streets, Jin-A could see the results of this mixing. Human children played with young Corvan, who communicated through color patterns. Nexari merchants sold goods that existed in several dimensions at once. Former enemies worked side by side, united by their shared experience of displacement and hope. "The Galactic Council wants to meet with us," Kim said, as they reached the dimensional observatory that had been built where the old CERN facility once stood. "They're calling Earth the Sanctuary Paradox and demanding explanations." Jin-A laughed. "Let them demand. We're not exactly in their jurisdiction anymore." That was true in more ways than one. Earth's partial existence outside normal space meant that traditional galactic law didn't apply. The planet couldn't be conquered, blockaded, or even properly mapped by conventional means. It had become a place of legends, spoken of in whispers by spacers who claimed to have seen it flickering between the stars. "There's something else," Kim said, his expression growing serious. "The Void crews have been detecting unusual patterns in dimensional space. Something is hunting the Devourers." This was new information. Jin-A felt a chill, despite the warm afternoon sun. "Something that hunts the things that eat reality?" "We don't know what it is yet," Kim admitted. "But several Devourer ships have simply vanished from dimensional space. No trace. No evidence of battle. Just gone." They entered the observatory, where scientists from a dozen species worked together to monitor the strange physics of their multi-dimensional home. The main display showed Earth as it really was now. A complex knot of intersecting realities, beautiful and terrifying in its impossibility. "Captain Park," called out engineer Su-Min Choi from her workstation. She had become even more integrated with dimensional technology over the months, her consciousness now existing primarily as patterns of organized energy. "We're receiving a transmission on quantum frequencies. It's unusual." The message that came through the speakers wasn't in any language any of them recognized. It was pure mathematics. Equations that described concepts beyond normal physics. But somehow, everyone who heard it understood its meaning. "We are the architects," the message conveyed without words. "We built the frameworks that hold reality together. We have watched your transformation with great interest." Jinae exchanged glances with Kim. The architects were legend even among the void dwellers, supposedly ancient beings who had shaped the basic laws of physics billions of years ago. "Your species has achieved something we thought impossible," the message continued. "You have created stable existence across multiple dimensional layers without losing your essential nature. You have become bridge builders between realities." "What do they want?" Janae asked aloud. The answer came immediately. "We offer you partnership. The universe is vast and full of wonders, but it is also threatened by forces that seek to unmake everything we have built. You have proven that life can adapt and thrive even when faced with impossible challenges. We would have you join us in protecting all that exists." The implications of this offer settled over the room like a weight. Humanity had gone from a single threatened planet to potential guardians of universal reality in less than a year. "What would this partnership involve?" Kim asked. "You would become our representatives in this region of space," came the reply. "Your world would serve as a sanctuary, not just for refugees, but for reality itself. When dimensional predators arise, when the laws of physics come under attack, you would be our first line of defense." Jinae looked around the room at the faces of humans and aliens who had learned to work together, who had built something beautiful from the ashes of near extinction. Children laughed in the distance, playing games that involved running between universes. Above them, stars from multiple realities shone down with gentle light. "We accept," she said simply. The transformation was immediate but gentle. Earth's dimensional nature stabilized, becoming less chaotic but more powerful. The planet began to glow with soft light that existed in spectrums beyond normal vision. Across the galaxy, sensitive beings felt a new presence watching over them, protecting them from threats they couldn't even imagine. Months later, Jinae stood on the observation deck of the new dimensional defense station, built in orbit around Earth's multi-reality manifestation. Through the transparent walls, she could see patrol fleets of mixed human and alien crews heading out to investigate disturbances in space-time. Earth had become the heart of a new kind of civilization, one dedicated to protecting life in all its forms. "No regrets?" asked Kim, appearing beside her with his characteristic shimmer. Jinae smiled as she watched a group of refugee children play in the station's dimensional garden, their laughter echoing across multiple realities at once. Ships from 100 worlds came and went through Earth's dimensional gates, bringing news and trade and hope to species that had thought themselves doomed. "None," she said firmly. "We started as defenders of one world. Now we're protectors of everything that exists. Humanity found its purpose among the stars, even if we had to become something more than human to fulfill it." In the depths of space, ancient threats stirred and found themselves faced with something they had never encountered before. Beings who fought not for conquest or survival, but for the simple principle that life and hope should continue to exist. The unknown ship that had decloaked to save Earth had brought more than rescue. It had brought transformation, purpose, and the promise that no world would ever again face extinction alone. Earth spun between realities, a beacon of impossible hope in an infinite universe, guarded by the children of void and stone who had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not in their weapons or their technology, but in their refusal to let anything truly precious die while they had the power to prevent it.